copies of Golden Boy are available for purchase at the registers, and just a quick reminder that we ask you to please turn off or silence your cell phones. And now I'm pleased to introduce Abby. A writer and actress, Abby is also the book's editor for the UK-based Phoenix magazine. Her new novel, Golden Boy, tells the story of a well-to-do English family that at first glance seems to be perfect. Both parents have good jobs, they live in a nice neighborhood, their sons go to good schools. But there is something unique about their eldest son, Max, that his parents feel must be kept hidden, even from his younger brother. When their secret is violently betrayed, Max and his family have to cope with how it will affect their lives. Before I turn things over, I'd just like to thank you for buying books from Harvard Bookstore. By doing so, you're supporting an independent business and ensuring the future of this author series. Now, please join me in welcoming Abigail Tarttelin.
Thanks very much for coming. I'm going to be very late today because all the flights from New York were cancelled. So I was very sort of anxious on the way here because I really wanted to come to Harvard and Boston to see it. Firstly because I come from near Boston in England. I live half an hour away from it. And secondly because part of the kind of cultural history of where Golden Boy comes from is based in Harvard. Because normally when I do a Q&A, the first question that gets asked is like, how did you write the book and where did the idea come from? And part of the idea was came from reading The Women's Room by Marilyn French, which it features gender equality legislation in the form of women being allowed into Harvard for the first time, and it features great sweeping historical changes in the history of gender inequality. But I think it's more about those incremental little violations of our belief in fairness that happen throughout our lives and kind of build up into anger and shame and resentment. And that idea of presenting inequality that way was really interesting to me because I feel like, even though I haven't had a whole life and so I'm not bitter and angry yet, I feel like that's how I experience gender inequality, and I feel like that's how a lot of people from all walks of life experience inequality in general. So obviously Bethy didn't mention something about the book that it's given away really early, so I always give it away in readings. So the protagonist is called Max, and he is an intersex character. So he's neither male nor female. He's raised as a male, and I'm saying he because everybody refers to him as he throughout the book, and or especially in the beginning of the book. And then he experiences a sexual assault, which threatens the secret nature of this intersex identity that he has. So despite that description, because of The Women's Room and the inspiration that gave me, it is a novel about subtleties rather than a very soap opera-esque, dramatic novel. So, and I think the pieces that I'm going to read illustrate that despite their drama. So the book is written in the first person. It's from multiple points of view. And I think it was a really interesting way of exploring how people from different generations and different walks of life think about Max's intersexuality and thus gender and being different in general, and kind of fitting in with society. And so it was an interesting way particularly to explore Max's parents' expectations of him in these situations that he goes through. And then also a thing to mention for these readings, while I was researching intersex as a way to approach talking about gender and talking about being different in any LGBTQIA way, something that I felt was a really important topic to write about was the medical fascination with intersexuality and how I really think that can affect intersex people's feelings about their bodies, but also their sense of ownership of their own body and their sense of autonomy. And that's something that Max struggles with throughout the book. So in this scene, Max meets Dr. Archie Verma. It's just after the assault, and he goes in to see her, and talks about his experiences with doctors. And then the scene following it is his mother Karen, and you get a completely different view, but you also see how some roles that kind of she expects herself to fulfill are putting pressure on her. So this is Max. I lie back on the bed. It's spongy and slender, my knees are off of it. I wait to feel her hands. I look at her name tag, Dr. Archie Verma. When did they start putting first names on doctors' badges? I don't remember that from all the specialists. I never knew their first names. They always spoke over me, to mum or dad or to other doctors. They rarely asked me stuff, even when I could have just told them the answer. Dad said we had to be careful about how much we told them, so I kept my mouth shut, while they pried around me, poking me with their stubby, plastic-gloved fingers. I was an interesting case study for them, an experiment. I never thought about it before in great detail, but as I wait for Dr. Verma to poke at me, I remember what it felt like on the cold steel tables in the clinic in London. The eyes, the shaking heads. I just used to get lollipop from mum and look away. When is Archie Verma going to touch me? I hold my breath, waiting for it. She puts the sheet back over me. Okay, Max, you definitely had a tear down there, but I can't tell without cleaning it where it is, or if I need to put in any stitches. I'm going to take a few samples, and then I'm going to clean you up with some saline solution, okay? And then we'll find out where the bleeding's coming from. I nod compliantly, and she goes away and comes back with a bottle of liquid and some other stuff, which makes a clank when she puts it down on the table. Then I feel a pulling. Ow. I'm sorry, this will hurt, but it's important, okay? Okay. I shut my eyes and try to think about football, running, the outdoors, fresh autumn air, leaves that crunch, girls' lips, fireworks night, and then the uncomfortable feeling stops, and Dr. Verma says, it's over. Then she uses a cloth to dab hesitantly at me. I watch, not saying anything still. She's much more gentle than the specialist. She looks up and crooks her mouth at me apologetically. Nearly done, she says quietly. She takes the cloth away. Okay, I'm just going to press in a few places and you tell me if it hurts, all right? I nod and she presses around me. No, 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 yes, yeah, no. Okay. Max? She goes over to her desk and brings me a pill and then a glass of water from the tap. Can you take this? I nod and swallow it. I'm going to prescribe you some strong painkillers as well, but you have to promise me you won't exceed the dose. Okay? And I'm going to give you one stitch. This is a local anaesthetic. She rubs a liquid on me and turns away for a minute, screwing tops onto some vials with sticks in them. She writes labels in tiny handwriting and sticks them on the vials. And then she turns back to me and asks me to close my eyes. I feel the tugging and then she says it's done. I put my clothes back on behind the curtain and she tells me what medicine she's going to give me. Before she lets me off the bed, she rolls up my sleeve and takes a blood sample and a needle from my arm. She talks to me while she's doing it, giving me more instructions in a soft voice. But my head swims and she gives me a look and she says she'll write everything down so I don't forget. Max, she says, businesslike, rolling down my sleeve, I want to ask you something. I try to focus and Dr. Verma looks serious again. Do you think it's going to happen again? No. She stares at me like she's trying to assess whether I'm telling the truth. Are you sure? I nod. Max, I have an obligation if I think you're likely to be assaulted again to go to the police. No! I shout, suddenly terrified. But I'm not going to, she says. Not without your permission. Because you've told me it's not going to happen again, and I believe you. But do you want me to contact the police? Do I say. I'm surprised. Weirdly, I guess. I hadn't thought about it. No. I could go with you. I shake my head. I don't want anyone to know. She bites her lip. Your parents don't have to find out, she says. My dad's the Crown Prosecutor. She takes a little breath in and holds it for a second, then nods, letting it out. I see. My dad prosecutes all the criminals that the police pick up. He's in charge. He sees every case that's tried in our area. I don't want anybody to know. Dr. Berman nods and says quietly, I took some samples, so I have the DNA. You do? I look over to the vials and she collects them and puts them on her desk. Yes. I grimace and don't ask her how she knows for sure. I can store them and I can also get the samples analysed so that if you wanted to go to the police, all the evidence would be here. She must see that I look uncomfortable because she says, it can just be between us, unless you tell them otherwise. I nod. Unless you tell me otherwise. So, do you want me to call someone from the local station? They could come see us here. We don't even have to leave the office. We could ask them not to tell your dad. She looks at me really nicely, but I'm just a blank. I'm just tired. I just want it to be over. I don't want anyone to know, I say again.